Mason Barney is a successful attorney in New York City, but it was kind of a tough road getting there. When he first went to elementary school, he was diagnosed as both gifted and talented and as learning disabled, which was quite a confusing situation. Some of his teachers found that hard to believe or hard to work with. And it was also confusing for Mason and his parents as well.
I think it was obvious to both my husband and I in the beginning that Mason was intelligent. I mean, he was incredibly verbal from a very early age.
But do you have any evidence other than this that my client, Mr. Vanderman, committed these crimes, or that there were these crimes committed?
Well, no.
But when he got into school, he was having difficulty, and it didn't make sense to us.
When Mason first came to CAST, he was maybe a fourth grader. He was extremely discouraged about learning. He really had encountered a lot of barriers and had been getting feedback that maybe he wasn't able to do a lot of things. So in particular, he was extremely turned off about writing. So when he first came, we gave him graphics programs, and we got him kind of disengaged with the computer so that he could make something and have something that he had made, take it home, and so on. But eventually we had to tackle the problem of writing. And so we thought, oh great, we'll give him a word processor, and this will scaffold all the issues with handwriting and spelling and so on. And the problem was that for him, a blank screen was essentially the same as a blank page. It just was not something, he couldn't go there. It was text. It was having to write, and that didn't work. At that time, we were working with HyperCard and building little prototypes of programs, and we built this program called the Multimedia Composer, where a user could create pages either by starting with graphics, starting with audio, or starting with text. And we had a bank of sounds, or they could record their own sounds, or they could draw their own pictures, or use pictures that we provided. And I introduced this to Mason. We just had it kind of hot off the press to try. And his first thing was he started making sound effects. And he put a sound effect on each of 10 pages. And I, of course, had no idea really where he was going with this, but he just put these sound effects on. And then he started drawing pictures. And he drew a picture for each page to go with the sound effect. And lo and behold, he had a story in his mind that he really wanted to tell.
I didn't have to sit down and write a story. I could create a story using other means. That was just sort of a first step in my understanding that it's okay to think outside the box and come to a different solution to a problem.
I think these experiences helped Mason understand that all of the issues were not internal to him, that there were issues in the environment, there were issues with teachers, there were tools that could help him to succeed. And that gave him a platform from which to develop his own strategies, at which he became extremely expert.